Hello and welcome to my madness. As I was reading this morning, I was catching up on some news. In this particular instance, the news was a Utah study on trans youth care, extremely inconvenient for politicians who ordered it. Now, this was reported by Madison Pauly of the Mother Jones publication. And she had some interesting things to say. Now, I'm not going to read the entire article, but just a few bits and pieces here. In 2022, Utah Governor Spencer Cox was considered a rare Republican governor who seemed to truly care about the well-being of transgender children. He says that, "I don't understand why they are going through or why they feel the way they do, but I want them to live." He also indicated that all the research shows that even a little acceptance and connection can reduce suicidality significantly. Big word there. What he's trying to say is that people who have connections, and this is what loneliness is about, a lack of connections, and loneliness leads to, it's been demonstrated, leads to or can lead to suicide. And this is what he is referring to because our civilization here in the United States loves to marginalize those populations, those people who do not conform. This is the Christian national vision, to get rid of people like myself, who are different. So there was a bill that ordered the Utah Health Department to commission a systemic review of medical evidence around the treatment of gender dysphoria, with the goal of producing recommendations for the legislature on whether to lift the moratorium that he had imposed. And you know what they discovered? They discovered that medical evidence published in this report that was compiled over a 2-year period by the Drug Regimen Review Center at the University of Utah, unlike the federal government's report on the same subject that was produced in 3 months and criticized gender-affirming pediatric treatments. Oh, yes, and did not name any of its sources. Well, this report names all of the contributors. And the consensus of the evidence was that the treatments are effective in terms of mental health, psychosocial outcomes, meaning a better life, and the induction of body changes consistent with the affirmed gender in the pediatric dysphoria patients. The evidence also supports that the treatments are safe in terms of changes to bone density, cardiovascular risk factors, metabolic changes, cancer, and more. The only problems occurred in those who went through these therapies after childhood, meaning that, it's during our preteens and teen years that our body goes through these changes. And for those of you who may have no idea what's happening here, well, as the fetus develops, there comes a time where the gender determination takes place, and that is through hormones. We are all born female. Every single person on this planet began life as a female. Now, all of those religious fanatics and everything who are of the opinion men are the primary thing, they've got it all wrong, because they began as a female also. But there comes a time where the hormones are released that determine male, female genders. And sometimes those hormones don't release at the right time, don't release at all, or, something somewhere in between. And because of that, females who get too much of the male hormones are more likely to be lesbians. Males who don't get enough of the male hormone are more likely to be homosexual or gay, in case you can't figure that out. So this is all a natural process. And sometimes during this process, the instructions get hosed up, and you get a brain that is formed specifically for a woman, because the brain structure of a female is different from the brain structure of a male. So you get a female brain structure in a male, then they're more likely to be androgynous or have feminine tendencies. That's part of nature. That's part of God's divine plan. Oh, anyway, as we continue with this, things get messed up. So, as we continue with this, it is our expert opinion, they write, that policies to prevent access to and use of gender-affirming therapies for treatment of gender dysphoria in pediatric patients cannot be justified based on the quantity or quality of medical science findings or concerns about potential regret in the future, and that high-quality guidelines are available to guide qualified providers in treating pediatric patients who meet the diagnostic criteria. There's no reason why these therapies cannot be made available. However, now let's get to the real scientific aspect of these studies and such that have been advocated for by real scientists, okay? Utah Republicans, Representative Katie Hall, who co-sponsored the 2023 ban, issued a joint statement with a fellow Republican state representative, Bridger Bollinger, the chair of the legislature's Health and Human Services Interim Committee that dismissed the study's findings. These are the scientists. The other people who contributed to the report were just idiots. These were the scientists. And these Republicans go on to say that, simply put, the science is not there. The risks are real, and the public is with us. The public is with them. Yes. And you know what happens when science and religion come together? All you have to do is look at the history of science. And all those scientists that were excommunicated, executed, jailed, imprisoned because what they discovered was contrary to belief. Now let's get specific. Contrary to Christian belief. Fortunately, as progress was made in religion, science, psychology, and everything else, fortunately, many of the Christians grew with that and they accept science. However, you've got these other people here who believe that religion outranks science because it cannot be proven. You cannot prove religion. And let's just consider something here, because this is the direction that we are going with our society, with Christian nationalism influencing government policy, Christian nationalists being in the government in various branches and levels, in the legislature, in the cabinet. Consider this, because this is where we are moving towards. Theocratic countries often shape their human science programs, such as psychology, sociology, anthropology, through the lens of religious doctrine. Yes, the real scientists. Iran has institutions that are dedicated to Islamic psychology and sociology, integrating religious principles into the study of human behavior. Religious principles. Afghanistan, under the Taliban rule, their education in human sciences is influenced by Islamic law. And the research focuses on the religious ethics of social behavior. And this is the direction that we are moving. We are moving into a potentially democratic theocracy, where religion is the rule of the land, the law of the land, religion, not science. Because you cannot prove anything in religion, and beliefs do not require any kind of scientific fact. Nothing. All they require is that someone says yes. It's nothing about faith or anything else. It's about a lack of interest in yourself and those around you. But then again, I'm probably just ranting, and I must apologize for that. However, if science is just a fiction, why not close the hospitals, the weather reporting centers, the space program, and everything else? Why not close it down? Because these do not conform to religion. However, they are very convenient to the hypocrites who are promoting all of this. And you may not like this, but it is not President Trump who is actually responsible for what's happening here. It goes much deeper than that. It is not only the Republican Party, but the Democratic Party, the Republican and Democratic legislature that is encouraging and allowing our nation to become divided. Because what is it that's happening right now? The Democrats want to get back in power to undo all of this, only so that the Republicans can get back in power and undo it. Why do we want to continue with this cycle? It's time for us to stop being idiots and voting for political agendas. Start looking at people. Don't vote for Democrats just to get rid of the Republicans. Don't vote for Republicans to get rid of the Democrats. Stop all of that. We need leaders. We need leaders who are more concerned about those they represent than towing the party line, which is what has been happening for the last 20 years. Anyway, if you found this interesting, take a moment, like the video, consider subscribing to the channel. It's not that I go on these rants or anything, or even that I'm a dissatisfied customer, but this is stuff that people need to understand, particularly those people who don't bother voting because they are the ones who are the real culprits here. They need to be involved. And remember, if religion is going to play a big role in this, then consider this in Revelation. I spit you out because you are neither hot nor cold. You are lukewarm. Therefore, you are utterly worthless. Thank you very much for stopping by, and I hope you have a wonderful day.